Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraः Sthirairangaistुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuः Swasti na Indro Vruddhasravaः Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaः Swastirnastakshyo Arishtanemihi Swasti no Vrihaspatirdadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Hari Om. So in the last class, we were studying the 8th mantra of the 2nd chapter of the first part of Mundaka Upanisad, where we find that avidya and its offshoot, this karma and karma, are condemned. So this Shankaracharya indicates this avidya karma karma forms a cycle. It is this cycle which keeps us entangled in this worldly existence, life after life. The cycle of avidya karma karma. And that's being indicated in the next mantra. So let's read the mantra and then we will follow up with the discussion. We had a discussion of this sloka in the last class. We will recapitulate it before we proceed to the next mantra. Avidyayam antare vartamana swayam dhiraha panditam manyamanaha janghanyamana pariyanti muraha andhe naiva niyamana yathandha. So, what is this sloka is saying? That avidyayam antare vartamana. That the so-called who are accomplished as per the worldly way of life is concerned, who are successful as per the worldly way of life is concerned, they are puffed up with vanity. They say we have achieved, but they forget that actually it is ignorance which is dwelling in their heart, which is not allowing them to see that what they have achieved is just a mere short-term gain. It's not going to help them to attain something permanent. So that's why this is being indicating that what avidyayam antare vartamana. The ignorance is still prevailing in their heart, but they think that they are the pandita, the wise person. Swayam dhiraha panditam manyamana. They think themselves as equipoised and intelligent. Manyamana, they consider. But what's the result of such consideration? Janghanyamana. That in the Sanskrit words are related to the other Indian languages. In Bengali, we say Jaghanya. So that's this Janghanyamana, something extremely deteriorating, something which is extremely degradable. What's that? That which results in decay, disease, death. That all those achievements at last is going to end up in decay, disease, death. That's the Janghanyamana. Pariyanti. This pariyanti means we go on circling, going on the same cycle of this decay, disease, death, life after life. Mudha. They are actually mudha. They are the ignorant, though they think themselves as the intelligent one. And not only that, they think that they are the intelligent, all the short-term gains which they have achieved, that's the only thing that can be attained in this life. And so they think themselves to be the teachers. Let's see how well established I am, follow me. They will start many courses in which they will enroll students so that they can also be successful, as they are thinking that only to be the be all and end all of our existence. It is like andhenaiva, just like a blind leading the blind. Niyamana yathandaha. So this is in the strong language, the Upanishad here is indicating the ultimate result which follows when one out of ignorance considers all the short-term gains which are attained by the sacrifices or by any other worldly pursuits is the be-all and end-all of our existence. That what the result follows, that's being indicated. So in the last class also we were discussing this pariyanti, means to wander about in the cycle of avidya, kama, karma. To understand this cycle of avidya, kama, karma, in the last class also we were resorting to the allegory of Swami Vivekananda, which he uses in Raja Yoga. He says that consider our mind as a lake. And the bottom of the lake is as if our real nature, which is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. What it means? Sat Swarupata. Sat means that which has no annihilation, that which was, which is, which will be. No phase of time, past, present, and future, can interrupt its existence. So that is Sat. So when we say that my real nature is Sat, it negates the idea of my limited existence, which starts at my birth, which ends with my death, and that which goes to the sixth type of changes as long as I am living. So it negates that. So that Sat means that my real existence is eternally present. It was, it is, it will be. And what is Chit Swarupata means? And that eternal existence, which is the essence of my being, is not something inert. It is conscious principle. It is the consciousness which is appearing as this world of name and form. And that consciousness is the essence of my being, which is eternal. And what Ananda Swarupata means? Now again, we may be deluded by the fact that most probably this Sat and Chit Swarupata, which is my eternal nature, it speaks of this flowing in the wave of joys and sorrows through eternity. That as in this life, sometimes when we achieve a goal, we are in ecstatic mood, and the next moment we are depressed, and this flow goes on. We are in the duality of pain and pleasure, joy and sorrow. So when I say that my real nature is Sat Swarup, Chit Swarup, the next erroneous idea that may arise is that Sat Swarupata, Chit Swarupata, which is my real nature, is in the constant flux of duality, sometimes happy, sometimes in dejection, utter dejection, full of misery, sorrow. To negate that, this Ananda Swarupata has been spoken of. That Chit Swarupata, which is my eternal nature, which has no annihilation, which was, which is, which will be, is eternal bliss. Now the question comes, if that is the eternal bliss, if my real nature is bliss, why we go through all these pains and suffering in life? So for that, Swami Vivekananda is resorting to this analogy, that our mind is like the lake, our real nature, the essence of our being, which is behind our psychophysical existence, is that Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. Now, just as the way when the lake has a lot of waves, I cannot see the bottom of the lake. It's only when the water is calm, there is no wave, the water is clear and transparent, I can see even the bottom of the lake. So here also, as our mind is always in turbulence with thousands of desires, thoughts, it never can see the bottom. Very interestingly, it can see the bottom to a certain extent, because the waves doesn't filter off the Sat Chit Ananda Swarupata totally. The Sat Swarupata, the Chit Swarupata never gets obliterated. It's always palpably realizable. I'm always aware of the fact that I am. I never forget that. But that I am is mixed with worries, tension, dejection. What happens? That Ananda Swarupata, that gets filtered out when the mind is in turmoil. And now, when one intense desire engulfs all other desire, my mind has one desire. And when that is fulfilled, that intense desire is fulfilled, then for the time being, there is no wave in the mind. That one desire which engulfed all desire, which was tormenting me, I have to have it. The moment we have it, for the time being, the mind is calm. The let go ensues. Now the filtering factor has gone. The waves are no more there. Ananda Swarupata percolates through the body, mind, senses. And I am ecstatic. But there the avidya works. What's the ignorance? I feel that the thing which I was desiring, the object of my desire, gave me the happiness. But what has actually happened? The object has not given me the happiness. It was just a context that when I met my desire, when I achieved my desire, the mind calmed down. The happiness was welling up from within. And as I'm ignorant of this fact, for lives together, what I'm doing out of ignorance, we are chasing after desires, thinking that this thing will give me happiness, that thing will give me happiness. The three Asianas, Putraishana, Vityaishana, Lokaishana, all our desires at last can be boiled down to these three. That this fulfillment of this, when I have my progeny, when I have wealth, when I have name and fame, I will get happiness. But what is happening? We are always chasing that illusion. It's not that which is giving me happiness. The happiness comes from within. For the time being, there's a let go has ensued because the mind has calmed down. But we don't realize that. So we go on in this eternal, out of that ignorance, the desire arises again and again. From that, the karma ensues, and this circle of avidya kama karma is enchaining me, has bound me for lives together. I'm just bound to be in that cycle. So that's what is meant by pariyanti. And what is the result? As this eternal, I'm just in chasing this insatiable desire, which can never be fulfilled by trying to fulfill something which is apart from me. Because happiness is after all within. It can never at last give me happiness. Anything which conglomerates has to disintegrate. Life after life, in our attempt to fulfill the desire, so many these Panchabhuta conglomerates to create this body, but anything which conglomerates has to disintegrate. Again, we have to meet the process, go through the process of Jara, Vyadhi, Mrityu. Nature at certain point gives me everything. I think I am intelligent. I have wealth. At last I find when I get old, I myself start saying, where my intelligence has gone. That for small things, I find I'm doing silly mistakes. My presence of mind is gone. Everything nature is taking back. And when with the death, you cannot take your wealth. Your wealth is gone. All your property is gone. Your wit you lose. Everything nature takes away. And that goes on life after life. And still, when we are in the crux of glory in this life, we have achieved name, fame, wealth. We think I have achieved everything. And we start showing others the way. And that's what has been spoken of as andhe naiva niyamana yathanda. So it is speaking of the very fact of life. It is as if an eternal conspiracy is going on. The ignorance results in eternal conspiracy. The thing for which I suffer, the same thing I teach my children, and they follow that same path, and they also go on following the same thing. They will be again teaching to their next generation. We are all chasing the illusion It's just like that, that when the screw of ship is just moving, when the first one moves, just goes off the track, all others will follow him. That's what has happened. The entire humanity has gone off the track, and we think that's the only way, and we follow the majority. There are, of course, a few who doesn't fall in this category. So now the Upanishad in the next mantra will continue with the discussion that what's the result of this ignorance. Let us proceed. This 8th mantra we studied even in the last class. That's why we just had a recapitulation. Let us proceed to the 9th mantra. What's saying? The same. It is the same idea is being reiterated. Avidyayam vahudha vartamana vayam kritartha iti abhimanyanti balaha yat karmina na pravedayanti ragat tena aturaha kshinalokaha chyavante. Avidyayam vahudha vartamana. So there's as if heaps of ignorance all saturating our heart. Avidyayam vahudha vartamana. But we think we are kritartha. What has to be achieved, I have achieved. Vayam kritartha iti abhimanyanti balaha. That's what the children, in spiritual sense, we are all children. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, we are all mustached baby. That's what he used to say. We are all mustached babies. In spiritual sense, we are still babies. The baby plays with the toys. Our toys have changed, nothing else. It's the same toys with which we are playing, just playing with the toys. We are still that balaha, the children, the ignorant children. And they think that I am kritartha. Just the way the moment the child is crying, it gets its toys, it gets its chocolate, it thinks I am kritartha. I have got what I am supposed to get. Similarly, we are also happy with all those little toys which the nature has given us. Yat karmina na pravedayanti ragat. So through raga, through all these desires, you can never achieve that ultimate goal. You may achieve something, but sooner or later, everything will again be taken away. We again come back to that square zero. What is being indicated in the Upanishad? The last phase says that Tena aturaha kshinaloka chyavante. Chyavante means falls back. When all the merits which you have accrued through your good actions is exhausted, again you come back to this square zero, the same plane of existence, to start again. So it's the children, the balaha, who are immersed in ignorance in various ways. That's avidyayam vahudha vartamana. They flatter, they brag themselves, saying that they have accomplished the life's purpose. Vayam kritartha iti abhimanyanti. Now, as these performers of karma do not know the truth, owing to their attachment, the attachment clouds their intellect. They become myopic, short-sighted. That's being indicated. Yat karmina na pravedayanti ragat. They cannot see the real truth. Attachment has clouded their vision. They fall from heaven. Again come back, Chyavante. Miserly, this stricken by misery, atura. Atura means stricken by misery. And when they come back, when the fruit of their actions has been exhausted, kshinaloka. So this is the sloka, mantra, which Upanishad elaborates the process which has been spoken of in the previous mantra. So why we are called children? That and the spiritual sense, that why Valaha, that we like that the children of that marshmallow experiment, our condition is the same. We are befooled, we are lured by the short-term gains, where we find that in that experiment, where all the children have been actually given that condition. That here in a plate, here is a marshmallow. You want it? Yes, I want to have it just now. Wait. The one who gave the marshmallow, he told, I am going out for 10 minutes. I have some work. When I come back, if you are still waiting with the marshmallow on the plate, in the table, I'm going to give you the second marshmallow. And we find most of them cannot, delay their gratification. Most of them get lured, though they know that the second marshmallow is waiting for them. So ours is also the same condition. That, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he is a fool who digs a well by the bank of Ganges. Will anyone dig a well on the bank of Ganges? If we knew that the eternal bliss is here in our heart, why should we go on digging the well of this worldly happiness? It's out of ignorance we are doing. That's why it is a mustached babes that Swami is saying, this Bala. But they think, just the way the small child is happy with the toys, they think, Vayam Kritartha, iti abhimanyanti. So they flatter themselves, saying that we have accomplished the life's purpose. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a very nice example. You know, when a wet log wood, you first put fire in it. It burns very nicely. But in no time, the water from inside, they will start leaking and it extinguishes the fire. So such is the condition with the one who is thinking that the worldly accomplishments is the be-all and end-all of our existence. It appears for the time being that my desires is being fulfilled, just like the flame, there's a flame which is rising up, but in no time it will be extinguished. Jara Vyadhi Mitru, like that water will come and extinguish. All is gone. You again start. So that's why this Vayam Kritartha, this inordinate desire, what it does, it makes us myopic, short-sighted. Our vision gets clouded. So we cannot see the truth. In this life, constantly we are being deluded. We don't see the truth because of our biases. It is a bias which never allows us to see the truth. As the example which is given in our Vedanta is of a stump which is lying which is just there in a corner of a park in the evening hours, in the twilight hours, because of the darkness. It's not properly visible. There is something which is visible, but it's not properly visible. Now we will find how the bias works. The bias which is based on our desires. Now, if a thief is running away from the police, the thief thinks it is the police. The police who is in search of the thief, the police thinks it is the thief. A lover waiting for the sweetheart thinks it's to be the sweetheart. The child who is in search of the mother thinks it to be the mother. The mother who is in search of the child thinks it to be the child. So what? As per our desires, as per our inordinate attachments, we get biased, and that bias clouds our vision. The stump is no more visible as the stump. As per our bias, it gets colored into something which it is not. And that's the meaning of the word Maya. Ya means yatha yatha, as it is. Ma is used in the sense of negation. Maya, it is not as it appears to be. So when we say everything is Maya, the word Maya means that. Ya means yatha yatha, as it is. Ma is the negation. That I am negating the fact that what I see is not correct. It is my bias which is not allowing me to see the thing as it is. My vision is clouded. My vision is getting tinted by the glass which I am wearing. So that's why what happens, that because of this ragat, because of this attachment, they don't realize that this karma at last, its result is going to get exhausted. And we will be more miserable. As in Bengali, they say, Joto hashi toto kanna. That the more intense is your happiness, the more intense is your dejection, the more intense is your misery. The objects which gives me happiness, I get so much attached to it. When it is forced away from, when it is forcefully taken away from me, just think how intense the misery will be. So the more intense our happiness, the more intense is our suffering. And that's what happens again and again. With all our intense happiness, we find at last it is resulting in intense suffering. We become totally a pauper. We all realize that. But when we realize the time has passed away, the life has been spent, again I have to start from square zero. Again, a new wave start. And again, because ignorance will come and cover my intellect. So that's going on again and again. That's what the Upanishad is indicating. So the next mantra, it's also again the continuation of this idea. That's what's saying. It's saying Ishta Purtam. Ishta, Ishta and Purta. Ishta and Purtam. What is this? We will just discuss. Ishta Purtam Manyamana Varishtham Na Anyat Sreya Vedayanta Pramuraha Nakasya Prishte Te Sukrite Anubhutva Imam Lokam Hinataram Va Vishanti. Pramuraha, the ignorant fools. Prakrishta Rupena Mura. Mura itself means full. In Sanskrit, pra adjective is used in the sense of superlative degree. Prakrishta, pramura. So to indicate anything in its superlative degree, the pra is used. So the one who is just in and out a fool, he is a pramura, the ignorant fools. They regard themselves, manyamana. That what? The sacrifices, the ishtam, the word ishtam means sacrifice, and purtam means humanitarian works. In nowadays, we don't do sacrifice. For us in the present age, our study, our academic study, all our trainings, the skill achievements, you can say they are the sacrifices. And after that, in this life, what we think, that with all our skills, with all our achievements, I have achieved wealth. And with all the wealth, at last I think, let me do some humanitarian activities. That also will give me some recognition. After all, with all the wealth, what I'm going to do? You'll find that the multimillionaires, at last they resort to humanitarian activities. We do applaud them. But what's the intention behind those humanitarian activities? After all, name, fame, to soothe the guilty conscience. In Bengali, they say, Juto mere, goru mere juto da. That in Hinduism, to kill a cow is a heinous crime. Now, how to expedite, how to get rid of that sin, that heinous sin? Now, by donating something to some needy. So what? So I have killed a cow. So get rid of that sin. What I do? With the leather of that, with the skin of the cow, with that leather, I make shoes. And then I donate the shoes to get punya. So many of these humanitarian activities are like that. After all, I amass that wealth by cheating people some way or other. And then I resort to some humanitarian activities. So if that is the intention, or just even if I don't have any heinous intention, just to kill the boredom of life, what will I do with my time? Let us have some engagement, all these engagements in the name of humanitarian activities, just to get rid of the boredom. So if these are the intentions behind the humanitarian activities, we should be very, faithful to ourselves. We shouldn't try to cheat ourselves. Let us dive within and find out if I'm really doing some humanitarian activities. Is it a selfless activity? Or is it just for name, fame, power? Or is it just to soothe the guilty conscience? Or is it just to kill the boredom of life? You'll find that's most of the time in these three categories we fall. If that's the thing, then this purta, as well as the sacrifice, we think we will be fooling ourselves as we will be fooling others that this is the be all and end all of our existence. That with all this, we become kritartha. So here the Upanishad in strong language is saying, know it for certain, yeah, for the time being, it may appear. You will be a good source of advertisement. You will be a good, you yourself will become an advertisement to the world that yes, everything can be achieved by this, by Ishta and Purta, by all the endeavors to achieve skills and by doing some humanitarian activities with some ulterior motives, not with that highest goal of selfless action, giving the result to the divine, not with that. That again falls in karma yoga. When the Purtam is having some ulterior motive, then at last it may appear that you are a very well established person. What all has to be achieved in this life: name, fame, glory, power, wealth. Yes, I have got everything. But at last, nakasya prishte, te sukrita anubhutva. That all those your merits may even take you to heaven. That's the nakasya prishta. That you have gained the heaven with all this. Sometimes by heaven we think that's after death. Actually, even in this life we are in heaven with all our achievements. You will find all humans are not same. Some are more prosperous, more wealthy, more well positioned in life. They are as if in heaven, even in this world. So whatever, be it in this life or after life, all the goals after all the results have been exhausted. Imam lokam hinataram va vishanti. Again, we have to come down to this loka or even to the locus, levels of existence, which is below the human existence. So this is the idea which has been spoken of in this mantra. That man's action can be divided into three categories. So we say that by doing good actions, we will attain more and more good results. Why not prolong our stay in heaven? But know it for certain that all the action falls in three categories: good, bad, mixed. It's very difficult to have a pure good action. You'll find most of our action, though it is it is helping someone in some way or other, it is harming someone else. There cannot be any action which is purely good. So these actions can be good, bad, mixed. To understand this good, bad, mixed, let us try to have an example that whenever I am doing something for selfish motive, it is just like as if passing through the traffic. The traffic signals are there. If I follow the traffic signals, yes, I am giving importance to the collective goodness by subsiding my own selfish desire. There's a collective, this collective goodness is there, and my own, that my own welfare is there. Collective welfare, my own welfare. When I follow the traffic light, I'm giving importance to the collective welfare. If I break the traffic laws, why I'm doing some bad thing? Because I'm giving more importance to my personal welfare, ignoring the collective welfare. But most of the time, what happens? With all our intentions to follow the traffic rules, we will find we have ended up in losing points, giving fine. Why? Yes, with all our attempt to do something purely good, we will find that now and then, that when we are in a hurry, we go, of course, beyond the speed limits. And that way we miss the point. We had no intention as such. So that's how, know it for certain, in this life, as long as the selfish desires are there, and that's the result of this present existence, to have totally unadulterated good action is almost impossible. At last, we find we have ended up in losing points, in giving some fine, we have ended up. So there cannot be any action which is purely good. So as a result, what happened with the major, although we enjoy the effects of the good, at last the evil effects again brings us back. There are some evil that will again bring me back to this level of existence. So according to the Hindu scriptures, so there are 6 planes above the earth. Earth is called Bhu. Above this is Bhuva, Swa, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satya. As per the fund of our good deeds, we can attain these levels of existence. So, but if anyone attains Brahmaloka, from there are 2 things. You may again come back, or you may not come back. In Vedanta, though in this sloka, in this mantra, they speak that we have to come back, but to clarify the idea which is being indicated in our scriptures, let us indicate that yes, there are a few who, if you attain the lower levels of existence like Bhuva, Swa, Maha, then of course you have to, Bhuva and Swa, you have to come back. But when you go to Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satya, these are considered as the, Jana, Tapa and Satya, these higher 3 lokas are the Brahma Loka. From there you may come back or you may not. So we will try to understand that what's the idea of coming back and some there is no return. So when you have attained Brahmaloka, how we have attained? In this life, that the real happiness, we will try to understand the idea of Krama Mukti and what's the thing which brings us down. The desires brings us down. Why it brings us down? Why the desires brings us down? Suppose I am hungry. Suppose this hunger. For hunger, you need a body. It is physical, psychophysical existence with the body is needed. Hunger, thirst, need to procreate. All this has to be through the medium is body. Without body, you cannot think of that. But even in this life, we do sometimes go beyond the body. Though we are in the body, we go beyond the body. How? There are 2 types of happiness. One is the happiness which we get from sensuous pleasure. Now they have a lot of limitations. That something which you are desiring, the moment you get it, you feel satiated. After some time, suppose the delicacy which you like, you have the first serve, still you have the hankering for it. You go for the second serve. After that, maybe for the third serve. After that, the thing which you like most, you yourself will be saying, no more. I am full. In Sanskrit, they use that alam pratyay. Alam means enough. We have to say that for the time being, I am satiated. So I cannot go on chasing for the desire. For the time, after some time, it will be satiated, and I find that the happiness which I get is very short-lived. The moment the satiation comes, I again reach the plateau. So with this type of happiness, the sensual pleasures, the limitation is it cannot be prolonged. It reaches satiation and it comes back. Of course, today I was hungry, I had the satiation, again tomorrow it is going to come back. But there's another type of happiness, which is much higher than this. What's that? I have developed the skills of some, say, musical instrument, like playing sitar, the stringed instrument, or flute. When I was learning, it was of course a challenge. the challenge was bigger than my skills. But when a time comes when my skills meet the challenge, in the modern psychology, they say a flow ensues. You will be totally absorbed in that. When you're getting totally absorbed, what happens? Your mind is fully focused on the thing which you're doing. And now when the mind gets focused on anything, the other things starts falling off. We find that when I'm just sitting, someone calls, I can hear. But if I'm watching anything intently in the TV, some match is going on, I'm watching intently, someone calls, I don't hear. What has happened? As my mind is focused on the thing which I'm watching, it cannot process anything apart from the thing which I'm seeing. Though the sound is entering my ear, it doesn't register in my mind. Mind cannot process it. So similarly here, when your skills meet the challenge, your mind gets so focused, all other things starts falling off. That's why we find these accomplished musicians, for hours, they can go on playing, totally absorbed. For the time being, they forget hunger, thirst, everything. And now see, this happiness is much, much greater than the sensual pleasures. The sensual pleasures had a satiation just for 1 hour. You went for a very good treat. Within an hour, it's over. And now you are again just in that plateau. Your happiness is over. You have reached the satiation. Here, as if there is no satiation. You forget everything. It keeps you in bliss on and on. And all other bodily feelings starts falling off. Now that's why this is a much higher type of pleasure. So when all those sacrifices, behind the sacrifices, the selfishness falls off, not for doing happy, not for getting heaven. There's all these rituals. When you become accomplished in it, even those who do ritualistic worship, they know it creates a type of flow. You get totally absorbed in it. A bliss ensues. For hours you can spend. Others may feel that how is it possible to sit in that same posture for hours together? But that person is totally oblivious of his body aches and pain. He's totally absorbed. For hours he is enjoying that, whatever he's doing. So the more the selfishness falls off, the more, even in these sacrifices, even all these Ishtapurtam, all these activities, you can enter into a type of flow. The more I'm entering to flow, what is happening? Even in this life, I find that for hours together, the bodily needs falls off. Though I am in the body, I am as if beyond the body. The body no way can drag me down with all those biological alarms. It cannot. So I can spend more and more time in that eternal bliss. Now you will find that what brings us down, the one who has never developed any test which takes them to a state of flow, for which you have to develop skills, whether it is spiritual or whether it is some performing arts. That's why in Sanskrit they say sa kala ya vimuktaye. Even the performing arts can lead to mukti. If you are not playing or performing to get this accolades from the audience. The audience are there, but you're totally oblivious. You are totally absorbed in it. It can result in mukti. For the time being, you forget everything. You're absorbed. That's why they say sakala. That's kala, which can liberate us. Sa kala ya vimuktaye. Sa vidya ya vimuktaye. That was the only criteria of knowledge of all performing arts in that old Vedic tradition, that which liberates. And here now you will find that the one who has developed that capacity to be absorbed in something, forgetting the bodily needs for hours together, this becomes his habitual state of existence. So even after death, what brings us down? It's all the bodily needs which brings us down. All the sensual pleasures, hunger, thirst, need to procreate, All this brings us down. For such a person, he can remain absorbed in that contemplation, forgetting the body. So these forces are falling off. And this, the how much you have attained that flow, to what degree, that speaks of the level of the heaven you are attaining. That all this bhuva swa mahajana tapa, it speaks of the intensity of the flow which you have. If the intensity is not that high, you do attain some higher level. But again, just the way the one who has developed the art of playing some musical instrument and can stay in a flow for some time, he is not that accomplished, has to again come back. Even the one who meditates, in meditation, you will find that someone enjoys it for half an hour, some for 1 hour, some for 2 hours. So that's why Swami Vivekananda used to say that the only criteria that you are progressing spiritually is that how much more time you can spend qualitatively. That today I find that just by meditating, reading holy scriptures, after some time I get bored. It keeps me absorbed for some time, I get bored. That speaks I'm yet to evolve. I'm entering into the flow, but it doesn't keep me in the flow for quite long. So the more I practice, the more that duration increases. So I shouldn't imitate others and in the very first day try to meditate for hours together. That will derange my mind. But if I sincerely go on practicing, I will find automatically the time is increasing. And that speaks of the various levels of existence even after death. That just in your mind, by remaining in that absorption, you can stay for aeons. But after all that breaks, again it brings down. But there are a few who have to attain that highest level of existence in the deep contemplation, can from that state result in krama mukti. They need not come back at all. Then when this creation, every creation has an end in cycles. When this cycle ends, then they get absorbed in the absolute. But before that, if that flow breaks, we do have to come down. There are a few whose flow is so intense that they can continue in that state of absorption till the present cycle ends, and then they get absorbed in the absolute. That in the scripture has been spoken of as krama mukti. So now very interesting one thing. As a human being, we are the only being who are responsible. No other beings, either in the higher planes or lower plane, are responsible. They just enjoy the results of the actions they have done as a human being. Animals are guided by the instincts. Devas are guided by the instincts. What all you have gathered here, the merits or the demerits that take you to the different level, you enjoy the results you have accrued. Again, you have to come back to the human being, but human beings alone are the responsible being. What the word responsibility means? Responsibility. We are the only beings who can choose our response. In a particular circumstance, we have the ability to respond to the situation as per our choice. Responsibility is responsibility. We, as a human being, we can choose. In some other Upanishad, they speak that in front of the human being, the two paths are open. Shreyascha preyascha manushya metat. Tau samparitya vivinakti dhira. The Shreya and prayer is something which is preferable and something which is pleasurable. Prayer is pleasurable and Shreya is preferable. So it is up to us to respond to the situation by choosing either the Shreya or the prayer. If we choose the prayer, we go on this going around this cycle of birth and death again and again. Sometimes going to the higher plane, again coming back. Sometimes because of our evil acts, going to the lower plane, again getting the chance. Because as we told, all the karmas are mixed. However heinous work, crime or sin you may do, there will be something which you have done good. And that good act will again bring you back to this human life, will give you another chance where you have the capacity to respond. You have the ability to respond to the situation and choose your path. So that's why the human birth is the only birth which even the devas, the celestial beings, craves for. Because they also know they are just exhausting the results of the actions which they have done as a human being. For again getting a chance to go to higher planes of existence or to go to the liberation, they have to come back as a human being. So that's what is being indicated by these mantras, that only Brahma Jnana, the knowledge of the self, that alone can lead to the revelation. And even if that knowledge of the self is something which I have not attained in this life, but if I have led a very, very contemplative life, I've tried my best, that contemplative life might result in that Brahma Loka, where I continue with my contemplation to at last get liberated at the end of the cycle. That's the idea of the Krama Mukti. So in the next few mantras before this chapter ends, this idea of the Krama Mukti, that going to the realm of the Hiranya Garbha, to the Brahma Loka, that these few slokas, a few mantras will depict that. We will again take up that in the next class, those few mantras. And after that, the second chapter we will find has actually dealt with the Karma Kanda, where at the most we can go to the Brahma Loka. Most of us comes back. A few are there from where can think of Krama Mukti. But why to have this sequential evolution if realization in this life is possible here and now? The Upanishad will then speak from the next chapter of that knowledge which can lead to liberation here and now. Iha. This word iha will come in our Upanishads again and again. This here and now. It should be a cash down payment. We have that capacity. That all, after speaking of the merits and demerits of all entire Karma Kanda, the limitations of the Karma Kanda, the Upanishads from the next chapter will proceed to the discussion of the Brahma Vidya. So in the next class, we will try to take up those few mantras which gives the idea of that Krama Mukti before we proceed again to the next chapter. With this, we conclude our class today. Thank you all. Namaskars.